It's almost August, and here I am talking about the 2019 NFL Draft. I got to catch up sometime. So, anyways, as some of you have requested before, I am going to do division by division grades for the 2019 draft. You are welcome to pine away with your comments and your complaints and your praise and criticism and all of that in the comment section below. I'm going to start where my heart is, which is with the NFC North. And I'm just going to kind of bounce around a little bit. The actual grades, I'll try and put them in the description box for each of the teams, and we'll go from there. When I look at the Green Bay Packers, I'm going to start with them because you're talking about a team that has kind of toiled in mediocrity the past couple of years. You've now got some questions about Aaron Rodgers and what he has left in the tank and what he actually really means to that organization. You've gotten rid of the general manager before, Ted Thompson, the head coach, Mike McCarthy. You've got a new general manager. You've got a new head coach. So there is an element there of there is perhaps more pressure than ever on Aaron Rodgers to justify all the attention he gets, justify the massive contract he gets, and so on and so forth. And I really don't know if I like the approach of the Packers in this draft. And here's what I mean. When you look at what they did, at pick 12, I felt like they reached for Rashawn Gary. Sure, he's got great athleticism. He's borderline kind of freakish in terms of his athleticism. And maybe you buy into the notion that the system they played in Michigan wasn't a great fit for him. I just don't know. I just didn't see much production, and I don't know how much work it's going to really take in order to get some production out of him. So I question that one a little bit. And then when you look at in the 2018 draft, what they did peeling out so the Saints could come up and get Marcus Davenport, it allowed them the chance to have a second first-round pick here. Then they trade up from, 30 to 21 to get Darnell Savage, the safety from Maryland, a solid player, but I look at it and I felt like they reached a little bit on both of their first-round picks. And if we peel the layers back just for a quick second, if you would have just stayed put where the hell you were, if you think about it, back in 2018, you were in range. You could have just drafted Derwin James. I don't know about any of you, but I would have rather had Derwin James than had a Darnell Savage. That's just me. Now, maybe you'll say, well, you did get Jair Alexander out of it, so be it. But Derwin James is a better player. I'd rather had Derwin James last year. Just saying. I did like some of what they did on day 2 with Elton Jenkins and Jay Sternberger. I think both of them are future starters for this team. So there was some value there. I look at Dexter Williams could be a bit of a steal, the running back from Notre Dame in round 6. But I didn't like the fact that I felt like they reached on both of their first-round picks. And furthermore, with an offensive-minded head coach coming in, Aaron Rodgers on the wrong side of his 30s, once again, the Packers are investing multiple early picks on the defense. You can only do this so many times before it becomes lunacy. At some point in time, you got to give Aaron Rodgers more to work with. You got to give him more help. You got to give him more weapons. And it felt like to me it would have been better for them to invest one or both of their first-round picks on the offensive side of the ball. As far as the Detroit Lions, I love the Hawkinson pick for Matt Patricia's team. I look at him as not necessarily a Gronkowski, but he will be Patricia's version of Gronkowski in this offense. And sure, some Lion fans are going to sit there and say, well, we took a tight end a few years back in the top 10 in Eric Ebron, and that didn't work out. And look, as soon as the hell he got to Indianapolis, then he had a Pro Bowl damn season. But Hawkinson's legit. Hawkinson was one of the elite prospects in this draft class. Really hard to pass on him at pick 8. Tavai in round 2 I thought was maybe a little bit of a reach, but I really liked the Will Harris pick in round 3 and Austin Bryant in round 4. But to me, the one that really makes this go is Hawkinson, because he's the dude that can add a needed dimension to that Lions offense. Versatility, help as a blocker so you can improve the Lions running game, help as a receiver in the intermediate areas and over the middle. You know, like to me, he was kind of a slam dunk pick for them with a couple of other guys that could be future starters and key contributors for this team. It doesn't have some of the sexiness necessarily. It just kind of felt like if I was looking at this, it would almost feel like a Belichick draft. It really would, where on the surface, it doesn't really impress you. Now, granted, there wasn't the big time movement up and down and acquiring all this future draft pick capital like you would see from a Belichick draft. But some of this felt like it was a Belichick draft, and you could see kind of the mindset and attitude that we're kind of going for here, and it'll be curious to see how it all pans out. I did really like what the Minnesota Vikings did, investing their first 4 picks on the offensive side of the ball. You invested a ton of money in Kirk Cousins. You better do everything you can to set him up in a position to succeed. I look at Bradbury, their first round pick. He's going to be a long-term starter on the interior of that offensive line. And as bad as that Vikings line has been the past couple of years, any upgrade you can get there makes a world of sense to me, is easily justifiable, and surely a lot of Vikings fans weren't complaining much about it. Irv Smith Jr., the tight end in round 2, getting another weapon and a guy that you can utilize in a different way at that position from what you do with Kyle Rudolph. Smith gives you a little bit more explosiveness, a little more down the field threat, whereas Kyle Rudolph's more of a kind of safety blanket type of guy, and I like that pick. Madison, the running back from Boise State in round 3, I look at him like this. He's a guy that you can have spell Dalvin Cook, and maybe because you have a Madison in the fold, the Vikings will commit a little bit more to running the damn football, especially with the drafting of Bradbury, and that's what the hell they need to do. I look at this draft and I say, even in round 4, Samaya, the guard, he could be a future starter. I look in round 7 and I see guys like Chris Boyd and Dylan Mitchell that you could argue their talent was superior to their draft positioning, and those could be guys to potentially look out for in the future. I thought they had the right approach, helping their franchise quarterback, so to speak, in terms of salary anyways, getting several guys around him that could help him, and then still getting some guys later on that could potentially have some steal potential to them. So I thought it was a good draft for the Vikings. The team that I honestly did think, and this is going to sound homerish, and it is, and I don't care, I thought the Bears had the best draft out of everybody. And you have to kind of look bigger picture here. The Bears did not have a first-round pick, that's true, but they didn't have a first-round pick because they traded it for Khalil Mack. Khalil Mack is vastly better than any of the other first-round picks that you saw out of this division. So it's a big edge there to the Bears. They didn't have a second-round pick because they gave it up to trade up to get Anthony Miller last year, the wide receiver from Memphis. Wide receiver 1, as I call him. He had a solid rookie season, and there's still a lot more that you could get out of him. And when I look at the receivers that would have been available at this draft spot if the Bears had their second-round pick, I would much rather prefer Anthony Miller. And when I look at some of the second-round picks here in the division, maybe Elgton Jenkins would be the one that I could potentially consider as being better than Anthony Miller. Otherwise, it was advantage to the Bears. Then when you look at the picks the Bears actually did have, David Montgomery in round 3, to me, he was a top 2 or 3 running back in this draft class. He was a top 40 to 50 type of guy, and the Bears got him damn in the middle of round 3. He's a 3-down guy. He's a solid player. The Bears basically got their Kareem Hunt, hopefully minus the domestic violence tendencies. But you look at him, he's somebody that you could profile into that system, into that scheme. He's going to be a player for them early and often. And Riley Ridley, the wide receiver from Georgia, talking about a guy here who was arguably the best route runner, one of the 2 or 3 best route runners in this entire draft class. And his numbers weren't great at Georgia, but maybe that's more about Georgia and kind of how they just spread it around with Nada and Mecole Hardman in the running game with Elijah Holyfield and so forth. Maybe Ridley just didn't get as many targets. But the guy's got talent. He's a really good, smooth route runner, and Matt Nagy's offense values those guys that can run really good routes, like Taylor Gabriel, Anthony Miller, and now you throw Riley Ridley into the mix. And you look at Riley Ridley at round 4, and you see a guy that could potentially, down the road in 2 to 3 years, be a starter outside for the Bears at wide receiver. And when you're talking about, you don't have a first or second round pick. You previously traded them away, but you look at what they traded them away for. Then you look at round 3 guy is most likely going to be your day 1 starter at running back as a rookie. And then you look at Riley Ridley, a guy who could be a future starter for him. This shapes up to be a really good draft class. And when you factor in, if just one of the guys that were taken in the rest of the draft, whether it be Duke Shelley or Kareth White or Steven Denmark, if any of them makes the roster and contributes at all, it just takes the draft class to another level. And I look at Shelley, there's a potential there that he could sit there and eventually unseat Buster Screen as kind of your nickel corner. Kareth White was a guy that I guarantee you some teams preferred him to his more notable heralded teammate, Devin Singletary. I promise you there were. And as far as Steven Denmark, that's the type of guy you gamble on late in round 7. Here's a guy with freakish size, freakish athleticism. Figure out where the hell to play him. Is it corner? Is it safety? Who knows? Who cares? You bring him into camp and you figure out what the hell. Worst case scenario, you hide him on the practice squad and give him time to develop. But when we look at this draft, to me, the Packers are kind of like C-ish because I thought the picks they had in day 2 helped quite a bit. The Lions, to me, were just average. It was a C. The Vikings, a B-. I thought they were a little bit better. And I gave the Bears a B and potentially could have went a little higher. Because, again, when you factor in their first-round pick was Khalil Mack, when you look at it like that, how many other teams are going to have a better first-round pick or equivalent first-round pick to what Khalil Mack has been for the Chicago Bears? And the second-round pick, Anthony Miller, like I said, I would have taken him over a lot of the receivers in this draft class, especially the ones that would have been available where the Bears were picking. And to still be able to get guys like Montgomery and Riley Ridley, I thought the Bears, when you look at the entirety of the picture, had the best draft out of everybody in the NFC North. Now you can call me a homer, and now you can sit there and crap all over my opinion, and I welcome it, and I love you for it.